Hello everyone, it's Wednesday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Murayo Afolabi Brown. As always, I have the ladies with me. Hajia, Nima Ikeja Electric. How are you? When are you going to Hajj safe?
Hajj is calling me.
Hajj will call you, please.
My auntie is planning the Hajj for her 50th. And I'm just looking at maybe I should tag along.
Yes. So we're saying it for a while.
But my Hajj ambition or my Hajj dream is to go to Hajj with my husband.
Okay.
Because that's how my parents went on the Hajj, yes. So maybe that's who will be delaying it until two of us can go.
How are you doing?
I'm fine. Today is the Celebration Schools debate.
Yeah!
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Like it will be all over the place right now.
Yes. It's starting at 10, and we're going up right after the show. But the topic for me is COVID a blessing. I'd like to see how...
That's the debate.
For and against.
For and against. Last year's debate, what was the topic? I saw fire. And for the first time, I supported a boy candidate. So I think he was more eloquent and had more originality with the our local. I don't like those ones that crap. And YK does one amazing thing every year. She throws just like a spontaneous topic and see how fast the kids can grab. And there's a special prize for that.
So looking forward to how it's going to turn out. How are you doing, Mariam?
I'm fine, thank you.
Madam Offer.
Yes, one day I went to the children's book offer. I like that.
Yeah, it's like it's like also you know, it fits you perfectly.
Thank you so much. I said that after the whole experience, I'll be able to also sit people down who want to go on this journey to just help them understand what the pitfalls are, and because I'm learning a lot. It's an eye-opening experience. But also, I just wanted to talk about people that when you have a conversation with them or an issue with them, then take it to social media to address it. So they don't tag you, they don't put your name, but you know that we have just had this conversation, Auntie. Why am I now saying it on social media? I think it's disrespectful. No. Yes, I think it's disrespectful.
Without the tag, it's excelling.
No, it's not excelling or anything. You have a conversation with someone, deal with it, and move on. What does people have the conversation?
Wait, well, that's what
people deal. People deal differently. Yeah. So, and sometimes you have a conversation with somebody who is not understanding what you're saying. So, I had a conversation with one of my workers recently, and she wasn't getting it. I explained, I tried, I did whatever I could to make her just understand what I was saying. She wasn't getting it. She was hell-bent on being right. On this one, I am right. I'm like, okay, I'm done with this conversation. These are the rules going forward. Anyhow you want to handle it. If you don't work with these rules,
you didn't go to social media.
You didn't go to social media and tell social media?
Because it was for me, it was a minor issue, really. But there are sometimes I want to vent. No, sometimes I want to vent. And I really don't want to sit you down again when you're not understanding me or call somebody else and report the matter to. I just go and just write something and I let it go like that.
It's disrespectful.
No, I don't think so. As long as they don't call your name.
It can be therapeutic,
No, they don't call your name.
It depends on the person. You see, there's something I always apologize for. I can't control how you react to what I feel, or what I've said, or what I've done. But I can control how I can, interpret what I say. So I apologized to you, and I still think there's a learning curve.
I actually love your outfit.
This was my birthday gift from YK.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And she made sure Figure Stitches made it.
Oh, beautiful.
She took it there personally.
Oh, fantastic.
I liked the
actually, it looks lovely.
Around it.
Why do we get our kids to school? I mean, have I greeted you properly?
Yeah, I'm fine. Okay, I'm doing sales. I need money. I'm selling market. Just posting. Just go on my page. I'm doing, price/seriously. I just want to clear out.
My mom would have bought for you. She was alive.
Oh, my customer. I'm going to miss her.
Still grievous.
I'm going to miss her. Yeah.
But, I mean, my son, every morning, I mean, I can't, but he's crying. My 2.5-year-old, every morning they wake him up. Mommy, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to school. And I'm like, does he have to go to school? Maybe we should just stay home. I mean, it's just 2.5. It's 2 years and 8 months. I mean,
you're doing that last-born syndrome.
Yes.
You think so?
Yes. Did you do this? Did you feel this way for the first?
With the older ones,
I don't remember.
To get to school.
Yeah.
But
I just want this one to just stay. I didn't let it go on Monday. I'm like, let this guy go.
No, you relax it.
Yes. Maybe just keep for a few
my
days.
little girl now has been enjoying the father bathing her in the morning, so she sleeps till like after 7. When they've sorted the big ones, they've gone. That's when she wakes up. I'll just hear them, arguing, brush teeth. No, I want to sleep. She's just enjoying everything. I'm beefing her right now.
Attention. But
It's
you know,
well.
I think I'll reduce his going to school maybe 3 times a week or something. Just give him a break. He just needs some time.
Hey,
I
now,
don't
wow.
think that we send our children too early to school.
Early,
Yes,
yeah.
we do. It's our Nigerian curriculum.
Don't be guilty. It wasn't for even my last child, it was for Gufran. When I wasn't on set and it was raining, or I just felt like it, I would just cuddle my baby up and no school.
All right, let's go on a break. When we return, we go through the front pages of the papers. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Right, we're going to start with The Nation. Buhari's 16.45 trillion naira budget 2022 pushes deficit to 7.9 trillion naira. Killings, violence, Southeast governors revive Ibubiagu. EFCC probes 157 billion naira pension fund fraud. PDP chair zoning to North gains more support. Education students to get 75,000 naira stipend. And 6 minors held for abduction. Okay, which story are we taking? The Nation?
I could do the education minister,
Yeah.
Okay.
Adamu, announced yesterday during the World Teachers' Day celebration at the Eagle Square in Abuja that students undergoing degree programs in education in public universities across Nigeria will get 75,000 naira stipends per semester. They also said that students who are undergoing the Nigerian Certificate in Education, that's the NCE, will get 50,000 per semester, though he didn't say when the payments will begin. But according to him, he said that respective state governments should provide automatic employment, find a way to provide automatic employment for NCE graduates, at least at the basic education level, once they get out of school. They've also submitted a draft bill for harmonization of the retirement age of teachers. You know, it was moved from 35 years to 40 years. They've submitted it to Federal Executive Council, and they are awaiting their presentation to the National Assembly. And also the promise that outstanding teachers' salaries will be rounded up by December 2021. So hopefully they will pay out all teachers. On the other hand, Lagos State is saying that they are planning to increase the running cost of 1,016 public primary schools that they have. It was increased some time ago to 250,000 naira monthly per each primary school. But they're saying that due to COVID-19, according to the NUT, that some of the schools were not able to get that amount of money. So hopefully now they'll make it open for all of them.
I mean, I had visited a school, and one of the teachers actually used that money to buy screens, TV screens. So he
in the classroom.
judiciously used
the money
at the time.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
Mariam.
EFCC is saying that they've uncovered over 157 billion naira pension fund fraud. The EFCC head said this during the sensitization program on eradication of pension fraud in Nigeria, and says that the Commission is going to enforce fully the laws against fraud. You know, he mentions everything we always talk about. The same thing he says, see, Nigeria for many years operated a defined benefit scheme until 2004, when the administration of Olusegun Obasanjo came up with the pension industry reform that heralded the contributory scheme, and that they thought that this particular scheme would have solved all the problems of fraud and all the issues where we have senior citizens, you know, just living many years without their pension paid. But that has not seemed to be the case. And they, as EFCC, will make sure that they follow and investigate this and follow and implement it fully. He says that apart from just financial loss that happens, there's also the loss to the dignity and the shame that comes. A nation should be ashamed that their senior citizens are going through what they're going through just to get money that they have, you know, worked for.
Yes, Nima, you're going to take another story?
The president wrote in the National Assembly seeking to increase our budget for next year's budget from the 13-point-something trillion to 16.45 trillion now. And with a revenue projection of 8-point-something trillion, you know that we have a major deficit, I think about 7-point-something deficit. I hope that all those MTEF, those ones that usually come, that we're already debating, borrowing plans and all of that, are well calculated into this budget. But the main document has not come to the National Assembly.
This human interest story actually caught my attention because it happened in Lagos and in Yobe State. It caught quite a few minors, 12 to 15 years old, kidnapping. The victims were 1-year-old, 3-year-olds, and 2-year-olds.
Wow.
Teenagers. Yes, 12 to 13, exactly. And they said that in Lagos, the incident happened. 4 suspects were arrested while allegedly trying to put the baby girl in a sack.
What?
Yes. And the 3-year-old sister, they're trying to pull that. So they act like they're scavengers. They actually, kidnappers.
Those ones that we've seen videos of them carrying generators.
Yes.
And now you carrying human beings.
Yes.
So those young ones, are they working for
any syndicates?
Well, they've been arrested, so I guess further investigation would let us know if they are syndicates. But these are 3 minors or minors that were arrested in Lagos and Yobe State. So Lagos here.
This is serious.
Okay, moving on now to the Punch. Teachers' new salary scale state NUT on collision course as government cites cash crunch. A tree crushes 4 oil traders to death during a downpour. Collaborate with Lagos, relocate Apapa tank farms, Senate tells federal government. Fani Kayode's using police to harass me, ex-wife alleges. Wow. Cholera deaths hits 3,057. NCDC laments death of health facilities. 11-member kidnapped gang operating from Kano and motor park smashed. Be prepared for 7-day isolation in UK. Federal government tells Nigerian travelers. Nigeria recovers 6,746 cases of COVID-19 vaccine side effect. Okay.
Okay, 11-man gang, let me just quickly add to that. So they also caught an 11-man gang operating in Kano at a motor park, and they usually kidnap people using either getting into a public vehicle or using their own vehicle to pick people and they take to the bush. According to this member who confessed, Bashiru Sule, he says that, you know, he does this kidnapping and he gets, between his first job, he got 70,000. Second, he got 40,000. And for his third job, he got 30,000. And the last deal, he got a 25-year-old, you know. Oh, sorry, he is 25-year-old and they take to their gang member who, of course, by the time you're in the car, they get some profile from conversations that passengers are having, and then they update their organ leader in the bush, and then they take their victims there.
There's another human interest story. A downpour happened at Idiodan, Sabo, I hope I got that, in the Atiba local government area of Oyo State on Monday, about 6 p.m. in the market. So the rain just started without any... You know, sometimes you see the clouds gather, but nothing happened and rain just started. And so people who had missed the last bus leaving from the market now went under this very huge tree. The tree has been there for over 100 years old, just to take shade when the tree fell and crushed people. So they said they were able to pull out a woman who had a baby on her back, and another young boy, and also another man. But the report is giving 4 persons died. But some eyewitnesses said about 9 persons died. So they had to call some loggers to, you know, try to cut out the tree so that they can rescue people. About 5 of them came. It was the 5th person that was able to, you know, remove the tree a bit for them to rescue. So they're still trying to clear that area now for the people. Okay.
Yeah, I have cholera. So
You don't have cholera.
The Nigerian Center for Disease Control has lamented inadequate facilities for the management of patients with cholera and says that the death toll just in 9 months is 3,057 deaths and over 88,000 cases. And they're saying, of course, the inadequate health facilities, inadequacy of cholera vaccine, inadequate trained personnel across the states is what's causing, you know, the mismanagement of this virus, this disease. Really sad, you know. That.
So who has the story of the UK travelers?
Yes, I did. I wanted to take in another paper. Okay, or should I go ahead?
No, go ahead. Let me take the Fani Kayode story, because his wife, Precious Chuendu, has alleged that the former minister was using the IGP, FCT Commissioner of Police and Chief Superintendent of Police, James Idachabak, to prevent her from having custody of her 4 children. And also, she's saying that he's harassing her and alleging that she's involved in criminal consultancy, forgery, and falsification of court documents. See, I'm not sure how that made front page, but the point is that she's accusing...
No, he might have grounds. So if they have a criminal matter against him, against her, is separate. But if the objective is to store her in a civil suit, having custody to her children, if you can link it, there might be substance to it.
Do we have time for the other story?
No, let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue with the other papers. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. Moving on now to Daily Sun. PDP chair, leaders zero in on Mark. Gunmen killed DSS officer, 2 vigilantes, burned vehicles in Imo and Enugu. Anambra Guba, INEC, NSA raised fresh alarm over deteriorating security. FG begins implementation of new retirement age for teachers. Immigration seeks court nod to file fresh evidence against ex-Rivers Governor Odili on passport seizure. And Southeast governors leaders vow to end killings and sit at home. Okay, which story are we checking? The major headline, again, let's knock it off. David Mark is being considered for the chairmanship of PDP. As he said yesterday, there was this row, the North versus the Southern leaders within PDP were trying to debating who should be the next leader. So far as of today, it's looking like it might be Mark because support is climbing for Mark, and he's from Midway, but he's a middle belt. So how do you categorize? Is it North?
Not central. So if you don't give it to the North, and you can give middle belt, so it's a bit neutral.
Yeah, so I guess
halfway.
Halfway, I guess. So that still gives the room to either have the presidential ticket from the core North or South.
Okay. So governors and leaders of the Southeast geopolitical zone yesterday had a security meeting. They were determined to end insecurity in the zone by engaging the federal government and security agencies to fight this. And one of the things they resolved is the fact that they're going to end the sit-at-home by non-state actors so that people can go about their lawful duties. They said nobody has a right to, keep the citizens at home and not allow them to do their work. Now, every state in the zone also is being advised to launch the Bubago outfit by the 31st of December latest, so that would help fight insecurity. They're also saying that they want to join hands with security agencies to stop killing. So they need to be getting calls from them, and they're going to study the report of Ohaneze worldwide on how they can solve the issues of agitations and listen to their youths more, so that everybody can come to one table.
Well, it seems that they have a lot of the Igbos in the South, in the diaspora.
Supporting.
So they need to have to intervene. There needs to be an intervention to be able to engage and have a dialogue with those.
Yeah, so they are even complaining that these people from the abroad who are supporting this do not feel the pains of the people. So you can't just sit there and be calling for sit at home when you are not there. Businesses are suffering. The economy is crumbling because of that.
All right,
so gunmen yesterday invaded a security office of Central Neighborhood Watch in Ogute, Enugu, Ezike. Igwe is a North local government of Enugu State. They killed a commander and one other person. 3 others were injured. They burned down 4 vehicles within the premises. The commander, his name was Chinedu Urama. They says this is a crime cracker. He's described as a crime cracker by sympathizers, and that he's recorded many crime successes, and it's really sad the way that he was killed. These attackers, they said, were 12 in number. They came in at about 1 a.m. yesterday morning and just opened fire. And specifically asked to be taken to the commander, and then he was shot several times, and then they proceeded to also use some other, things like machetes, cutlasses on him as well. Really sad. So, who are these unknown gunmen
that don't have faces?
Okay, let's move on to Vanguard. Southeast killings. There are over 30 separatist groups in the Southeast. Buhari writes Senate pushes 2022 appropriation bill to 16.48 trillion. No more sit at home in Southeast, vows Igbo leaders. LCCI 6 review of VAT sharing formula. Teachers Day, FG restores bursary for varsity students and others. Media parade of suspects now prohibited, says Sanwo-Olu. Oh, great. And Royal Rumble, why I abolished Olugbosere chieftaincy title, says Olu of Warri.
So
you have the Governor Sanwo-Olu story.
Yes, let's set us state again. I've set a new pace with the amendment of the Administration of Criminal Justice Law 2021 in Lagos. The governor amended sections to provide for audio and video conferencing platforms to allow criminal proceedings to happen on this platform, which means that unlike when we had the lockdown and there was a stalled prosecutions, it will not happen again because you can now go via Zoom and all of those other platforms where you can have video conferencing and proceed with proceedings. Now they also amended to allow the powers of the chief magistrate to do visits to the police stations along with that of prisons. They've also stopped media prosecution, prohibition of media parade of suspects that they used to have. We've been criticizing this particular one. I remember Femi Falana on it saying this is totally illegal, and so they've amended their laws to make it illegal now. And they've also provided compensation to victims of crime and protection measures for victims and witnesses, as well as establishment of a crime data register and criminal justice sector reforms. So this is just laudable for improvement of the judiciary, but it's also very good that it's starting here. I always know the other states. First state to always follow is the FCT, and then you have Port Harcourt judiciary also follow. So I'm expecting that to happen again.
Yeah.
Okay, another story in Vanguard.
Major headline, yeah. So Senate Minority Leader Naya Abaribe said that apart from IPOB and MASOB, that there are more than 30 other separatist groups in the southeast. And one of the reasons they are trying to secede is because the president hasn't addressed the issues of marginalization. That is actually the root cause of that, of these secessionist agitations. And so he's saying that what we need to do is to have dialogue, that the president may be able to squash the secessionist groups, but he cannot squash their ideologies. And so if you really want to make a lasting change, you need to understand what they are clamoring for and then call them to a round table, have a discussion with them, dialogue with them, and meet them halfway. But, you know, what he said, elicited a lot of reactions from the Consultative Forum, Middle Belt Forum, Christian Association of Nigeria, Hundeyin, and they're saying that this man should be picked up and ask the question. Since you said there are over 30 separatist groups, you should single them out for us. Let us know these groups and find a way to squash them.
Even I believe that this is a sit-up for Haneze. If you have 30, that means there are too many people that you can quell the agitation. So a secession will not bring peace.
It won't bring peace because they will keep seceding in their different groups.
So it's important to in dialogue. That's, I think, what Abarabi is saying. So what they are saying, identify them, let us know who they are, and then... Okay, another story there in Vanguard. I was going to take the Ulu of Ore that we highly celebrated. This man is, this our king is really doing some interesting things. So he recently abolished the Olugbo Chiefs title, and I think that affects the entire family under that title. And the article was supposed to tell us why he did it, but I read the article. It didn't tell us specifically why, and I guess in the coming days we'll know why.
There's no reason why. The Ayeri, who was the old Olugbo, was entirely against his coronations and his ascension to the throne.
We don't want to believe that that's
no, the matter is in court. It's a fact.
So the matter is in court. Yes, the matter is in court. That's why he's saying that he's not going to listen to what the law have already said, because the matter is still in court. That he's not going to hold water. But as I said, we'll still continue to wait and see how this turns out. Okay, no other story in Vanguard? No. Let's move on quickly now to the Nigerian Tribune. Undergraduate studying education to get some 5,000 naira per semester. I think I talked about that earlier. Buhari's terrorism sponsor allegation. Ghana on red alert, says Rep. Ava Gridlock Senate tells operators to ferry containers on water. And number 2021, NSA reassures INEC of hitch-free hole. COVID-19 vaccination, Nigeria yet to get UK comprehensive certification review, says federal government. And kidnappers now use motor parks as operational centers, police warns. Okay, which story?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, you take that story.
Which one?
5,000 naira per semester. I think what
earlier. So I have the House of Reps. They have asked the president to demonstrate sufficient political will and name and shame the member of National Assembly that is sponsoring terrorism. We remember in his Independence Day speech, he had mentioned that he knows some or one member of the National Assembly that may be behind the sponsorship of terrorism, financing terrorism, and this particular member of Honorable Ben Ibakpa says that this allegation is weighty and that Ghana has now put them on red alert. He even gave a personal experience. He said he was invited for a wedding in Ghana. When he got there, he was told to stand aside, and he was interrogated, and then for 4 hours before they finally came to him, and they told him, well, sorry, but you know, we have heard in your country that one member of the National Assembly is sponsoring and financing terrorism, so they have to check. So he says it is important that the president calls out the name of the person, so, you know, the same brush does not affect them all.
So the governor of Ekiti State, Governor Fayemi, had presented to a gentleman, it's supposed to be the Best Teacher Award Public Secondary School, Olasoji Bamidele of Ishon Ekiti, during presentation at the World Teachers Day in Ado Ekiti. I was interested because, I mean, it's good to compensate them for the work they've done as teachers. And since we're celebrating World Teachers Day, it was a good gesture from the governor. Okay, any other story? We've taken the UK already, right?
Yes.
Oh,
I didn't take that UK. So
please go ahead.
The vaccines being administered here will be subjected to sort of testing by the, I want to get it. So according to the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, they've said that Nigerians traveling to Britain will still be isolated for 7 days in the UK government because they want to comprehensively review Nigeria's vaccination certification. But the government is saying that the vaccines we have here were approved by the UK officials involved in the vaccination program through the Foreign Commonwealth Development Office. And so we are optimistic that by the time they assess it, they will realize that it's valid and can be used in their country. That we are not among the countries that must have 14 days supervised isolation when you get to the UK. We are not in the danger zone kind of country.
Okay, we have to wrap up. But at News Direct, I know there's a story that was interesting. Gas shortage, Nigerians turn to charcoal for cooking.
Yes,
And who has that story?
I do. Just saying that Nigerians have decided,
I'm not using charcoal.
yes, since the prices have gone so high, we'll use what we have as our alternative.
How do we make a blanket statement?
Yeah, we're going to be emitting.
Now to use cocoa.
What carbon?
Well, if there's a number to it, I'm one of them.
Oh, so you started using charcoal?
Yes, I have
really?
coal pot.
I wish, so I wish.
I want to get one.
And these are for Nigerian businessmen. I wish we could look into using coconut shells to do coal. It's clean energy. They are doing it in Ghana already. We can look into that. No, I've never seen it.
I've cooked with it.
No. As in
That's
to
you now.
do coal in large quantities so that people
production.
can use coal. Once we do that, myself, I will use coal. Very clean energy.
How many
We should look
coconuts
into
will they
that.
crack now?
Plenty. People, they do coconut oil for this country.
Enough to meet the demand.
Yes,
I
it
think.
will need to
it's
start.
the one
We
you
start
get from
small
the
now.
house.
Can't
But
we
what
start
if we should
first?
have alternative options?
Yeah,
Alternative.
for clean
That's the
energy,
suggestion.
please.
Okay, all the
You saw
scientists
those-
on the show. Let us just go on a break. When we come back, move on to our hot topic. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. So a book, #Conflicts for Jihad, written by investigative journalist David Hundeyin, is trending on social media. He appears to have broken new ground in this direction while throwing greater light on how this dreaded terrorist organization came to Nigeria. Now, join us on the show to shed more light on this is the investigative journalist himself, Mr. David Hundeyin. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so for those who have no idea of what's going on and maybe not on social media, could you give us a summary of your findings and why it was necessary to publish this at this time?
So when we talk about this thing called terrorism sponsors in Nigeria, there's this tendency to talk about it as if it's an abstraction, as if there are people who fell from the sky. We've been talking about terrorism sponsors for close to a decade, and we've never managed to actually name one. Meanwhile, the terrorists do get supplies. People are sponsoring them. So it gets to the point where at some point you have to sort of just call the bluff and name names, right? That these are the people, and these are not unheard of people. These are powerful people. These are people with access to power, and these are known people. So that was one of the goals of this article. The second goal, and perhaps the more important goal of the story, was to contextualize the rise of terror in Nigeria, not as a standalone event, but as the culmination, the logical culmination of a process that started as far back as the 1970s, arguably the 1950s, right? Because the common story of Boko Haram is that it started with Mohammed Yusuf. Mohammed Yusuf was somehow the originator of Islamic terror in Nigeria, and that when he was shot by police, then his deputy Abubakar Shekau took over, and that's where everything started from, 2009. That is completely untrue, right? The story of terror in Nigeria is at least 4 or 5 decades old. It didn't start in 2009. So this was what the story, this was the important context that this story wanted to bring out. It also wanted to, as part of that context, it also wanted to point out that Islamic terror is not a standalone thing, right? It's the culmination of a series of theological, political, and economic interactions that have taken place since the 70s. That when, basically, Islam has been practiced in Nigeria for hundreds or maybe even thousands of years without a problem, right? But it was in the 1970s where all of a sudden we started having this new type of Islamic doctrine, and nobody really understood came from. So I'm sure many of us have parents who do used to tell us, because they grew up in the North or they spent a lot of their time in the North, they will tell you that the North wasn't always like this. The North was a very peaceful place. My dad did his youth service in Sokoto State, and he would always tell me that after his youth service, he didn't want to leave. He wanted to stay. It's just that they didn't offer him a permanent contract. That's why he came back to Lagos. Right. A lot of our parents have, and then they would tell us that something changed, something shifted at some point, that even the Islam, it wasn't like this before. So what this article was to establish when that shift happened, why it happened, and who was responsible for that shift.
Okay.
Right. And
so,
all right, good.
Yeah, NASCO has refuted the claims. They have, washed their hands off, saying that they know nothing of all the allegations, and they have no hand in supporting terrorism. What do you have to say about that?
I found it very funny. Like, the hilarious thing that I've seen since this was published is the way people can look at something in black and white and simply just decide to close their eyes and say, la, 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 I'm not listening, right? I didn't come up with allegations or claims. I simply quoted the Nigerian government and quoted the US government, right? There was a letter, which I've shared the letter again on Twitter. I shared it in the story. I've shared it in multiple places. A letter written by Nigeria's then permanent representative to the UN, Ambassador Aminu Wali, to the UN Counterterrorism Committee, where he himself, the Nigerian government representative himself, stated in clear English, in black and white, that Ahmed Idris Nasreddin, that's founder of NASCO Group, and his assets, including the NASCO Group Limited and Nastrade Limited, have been forfeited to the government in line with his designation by the US government as a global financer and sponsor of terrorism, right? And then the US Treasury Department published a very, 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 very detailed breakdown of how Idris Nasreddin and his business entities were involved in global terror, in financing global terror. Specific mention was made of funneling money to an Algerian Islamist group called GSPC by the US government. Now, interestingly, the Nigerian government itself, in the letter it wrote to the UN, specifically named the GSPC again in relation to a money launderer called Haruna Shahru. Haruna Shahru was funneling money on behalf of the GSPC. So it doesn't really take much to connect dots, really. That here we have, in Nigeria, we had a local sort of terrorist bagman, Haruna Shahru, funneling money to and from the Algerian Islamist group. And then we had this Nigerian multimillionaire who was living in Italy at the time, also funneling money to this Islamist group. So, and all of this is, like, I would recommend that anyone who hasn't actually read the story shouldn't just read it, but they should click on every link in the story. Verify everything that was written in the story. Right. So it's not as if the Hundeyin came up with a claim, or the Hundeyin came up with an allegation. Every link, read it yourself. And then it becomes very clear that the statement released by the NASCO Group, which interestingly wasn't signed by anybody, and which did not threaten any legal action, because I think they know more than anyone else that they have no single leg to stand on. So I would recommend that people should just go and examine.
All right, let me come to
Mariam,
go ahead, please.
Yes, so of course, since your article came out, there have been reactions, and some people would say that even for me, growing up in the North, some of these stories would have, as you said, the shift is something that is familiar to me. And you'd hear stories, you'd hear rumors here and there. But your article sort of put names to these, people that they always say some people. So you put names to it. But people are saying that your conclusion seems a bit, what was the word now? Conspiratorial. So it's as if, especially when you mentioned that the Jordanian organization had recommended grazing routes as solution to a problem that did not exist at the time, and that the farmer-header clashes had not been in existence at the time when they were offering these solutions. You said that it came about 9 years after. But people will tell you that the farmer-headers clash has been on for a very long time. Some people will even tell you from colonial times. So what do you think about such opinions, where they think that maybe your conclusion is a little bit hasty?
So I would recommend that people should read the article carefully. read what is there, not read what they think is there. Because what I did not say was that farmer-header clashes did not exist at the time. I said that farmer-header clashes were not a factor in Nigeria's political equation at the time, which is true. We were not talking about farmer-header clashes at the time. It wasn't on the news cycle. It wasn't something that was on our mental radar at the time. It's not something that existed in popular discourse at the time. Even Boko Haram at the time was still relatively new to us in 2012. We definitely weren't talking about farmer-header clashes in 2012. Obviously, they existed, and they have existed for a long time, but it wasn't at the scale of quantum that we started seeing from 2015-2016. We weren't talking about it at the time. So why is it that as far back as 2012, when this wasn't even something that was being discussed in the media, this wasn't something that people were writing academic papers about, this wasn't something that existed in the popular imagination at all, this Jordanian government-backed NGO, which had links to somebody named in the story, Yakubu Musa Katsina, this Jordanian NGO was already listing these grazing routes as a solution to a problem that nobody had told it existed yet. So how did this Jordanian NGO know that this thing was going to be something that will become a hot-button political issue in Nigeria as at 2012? Did you know in 2012 that we're going to be talking about farmer-header clashes? So how did the Jordanian NGO know? Who told them? So that's the... I didn't even draw a conclusion from that. I simply said, how did...
Let me go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. Mira's going to have a follow-up question.
Yes. So just to go back, is Mr. David still with us?
David, you're there, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to go back to NASCO, response, they made references to some articles. They said the United Nations Security Council Resolution SC 9172 dated 15 November 2007, United Nations Security Council resolutions dated 17 January 2008, and then the National Intelligence Agency of Nigeria report to the presidency dated 11 April 2008. And they're saying that they were, cleared of all allegations. Did you come in contact with these reports when you were doing your research?
Okay, so I'm going to... Sorry, I'm hearing an echo. So I'm going to read an excerpt from the UN Security Council resolution in question. So that, because it's easy to just quote something and say, oh, this thing said that I was cleared. So let me read what was actually said in the resolution, and then let's see whether what they said has anything to do with what the resolution actually says. The resolution says the Al-Qaeda and Taliban Sanctions Committee on 14 November 2007 approved the delisting of one individual and 12 entities from its consolidated list, Al-Qaeda section. The below entries are now recorded in section E of the committee's list, that is, individuals and entities that have been removed from the list. And the individual's name is Ahmed Idris Nasreddin. And that's pretty much the statement. All the statement said was that this individual and 12 business entities have been removed from this list. That's all. The statement said nothing about, we have cleared them, we have exonerated them. People use, because they know that people are not going to click, search for this UN Security Council resolution and actually read what is there. So it's easy to just put out a statement and claim that this is what was said. For the avoidance of doubt, Ahmed Idris Nasreddin was not at any point cleared or exonerated of the things that he did. He did those things. He was indicted by the U.S. Treasury Department, right? You can go to the U.S. Treasury Department website. I've shared the link several times, and read the very, 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 very detailed breakdown of the things he used his business entities and banks, the Al-Taqwa Bank, to do, the entities he funded with these things.
Right.
What actually happened was, and this was reported in the LA Times in 2007, I've also shared this link multiple times, he cut a deal with the U.S. government to get his name taken off that list. And by the way, this is not a strange thing. This is not an unusual thing. It happens all the time, right? That if the U.S. government is satisfied that you are no longer a threat to them, then you will be taken off that list, right?
All right.
So
let me pause you for a second, because there's a lot of questions I want to ask you. Nima, go ahead, please.
So, David, kindly clarify for me, because I could not get the clarity on the Saudi involvement that you tried to put in the article.
Right.
You said at some point the Saudi government, because they want to promote the Wahhabi Islamic point of view or school of thought, they sponsored this. At the time I was growing up as a Muslim child, it was normal for fundings to come for Islamic books, just the way we get evangelical books and all of that. So I really could not put them as the backers for terrorism with the article. Clarify for me. There's a confusion for me there.
Well, the Wahhabi doctrine is not how Islam was practiced in Nigeria traditionally. The Islam that has been practiced in northern Nigeria for at least hundreds of years, is primarily Sufi Islam from two sects. I'm sure you know this, the Qadriya sect and the Tijaniya sect, which is a largely benign form of Islam. Those are not the people who go around shooting people or bombing people. They are not extremists for the most part. Right? Now, the entry of Saudi funding, and I'm quoting from a book written by the historian David Cummins in 2009. Again, I linked it in the article. And the book was called The Wahhabi Mission in Saudi Arabia. So I'm going to read an excerpt from the book. It says, the Saudi-funded Muslim World League also sent missionaries to West Africa, where it funded schools, distributed religious literature, and gave scholarships to attend Saudi religious universities. These efforts bore fruit in Nigeria's Muslim northern region, with the creation of a movement, the Izala Society, dedicated to wiping out ritual innovations. Essential texts for members of the Izala Society are Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab's treatise of God's unity and commentaries by his grandsons. So this is documented historical fact that this is what happened. This particular brand of Islam, which was the Saudi Arabian state's official interpretation of Sunni Islam, was exported to Nigeria. And the person who was the link between the Saudi government and Nigeria was Abubakar Mahmoud Gumi, right? He was the scholar who was
the president.
So prior to entering into that space, the Wahhabi or Salafist Islam was not a thing in Nigeria. That the extremely conservative to the point of being almost absurd interpretation of Islam was not a thing. Nigerian northern Muslims were not puritanic.
All right, David,
up until that point.
So if in your research that was what that writer, who is most likely a Westerner, wrote about the Saudi government's involvement. But in today's world, Saudi has continued to be an ally of the U.S. who claim to fight terrorism, and they have not promoted terrorism, unlike other countries. How come there's still a link? Why do you insist? Do they have new actions or inactions today that, suggest that they sponsor that?
I'm not sure what you mean by they don't support terrorism, because going as far back as recently as the September 11, 2001 attacks, the 11 alleged hijackers, 9 of them were Saudis. The Saudi government is one of the world's biggest promoters of doctrines that turn out to be terrorists. The reason that Saudi Arabia remains somehow a U.S. ally and doesn't somehow get on the wrong side of the U.S. goes back to a deal made between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia in 1976, which essentially created what we now know as the petrodollar, right? That essentially a deal with the devil that we will back you militarily, will be your number one partner in the region, and in return, oil sales, because back then oil was the engine of the global economy. We are essentially going to be your partners for the sake of oil. That agreement between the Saudi king and the then U.S. President Richard Nixon, you can Google it, is what made the U.S. and Saudi Arabia have this special relationship. That almost seems as if no matter what Saudi Arabia does, the U.S. turns a blind eye. So as I said, 9 of the 11 hijackers on September 11 were Saudis, and the Saudi government was never placed on any sanctions list. The Saudis have never faced any consequences.
So David, let me put the article aside for a second because we have very little time. What do you hope to achieve with this? Because we understand the facts that are out. Obviously, it's incriminating to certain organizations, certain people and personalities. What do you hope to achieve, especially with the governments, which many have argued may be somewhat sympathetic to some of these people? So what do you hope to achieve with this article?
Not somewhat sympathetic. It is absolutely sympathetic. There's a picture in the article of the president meeting with Yakubu Musa Katsina, who the Nigerian government itself identified as somebody who set up Taliban training camps across Nigeria and who set up terror cells in Kano and Katsina. I was arrested for it and never faced justice for doing that. And you have the president broadly smiling with him inside the Federal Executive Council chamber. So I think that says it all. What the purpose of this article, as I said, was twofold. First of all, to properly contextualize the development of terror in Nigeria, to dispel the notion that terror in Nigeria started with a guy called Mohammed Yusuf, because that is not true. And if you start the story from the middle, then you don't know what is going on. You can't fight something without knowing what it is, right? So that was the number one thing, to contextualize and to give people the information they need to know who exactly their enemy is. That this Hydra, this state within a state, known as the Zala movement or the Zala society, that they exist. And this is who they are. This is what their activities have led to. That's number one aim. The secondary goal was to point out that the current administration is flooded with these elements. So you have your Issa Pantamis, the president himself, constantly and proudly associating with people who are known to be terrorists, who the Nigerian government itself has identified in the past as terrorists and as terrorism financiers. So essentially that this, when we talk about terrorism financing or people being sympathetic to Boko Haram, people should understand how high up this thing goes, as this thing goes all the way to the top.
Okay.
So if you have a president saying that he's going to win a war on Boko Haram, and he's then shining his teeth inside the Executive Council chamber with the person who was one of the precursors of Boko Haram, who was literally training people to become Islamic terrorists in the early 90s, then clearly you're not going to win this war against Boko Haram under this president. He's not being truthful.
All right, so we have to wrap up. I mean, a lot of things are in the air.
Yeah, so when you uncovered this report, so to speak, what do you think should have been the best step? Did you plan to submit it to probably the DSS, to the United Nations? Did you plan to, because sometimes when you have something like this, it's very nice that you go through, you use it legally for what you want to achieve at the end of the day. Did you submit it or you just posted it on social media for people to read? And how do you think we as Nigerians reading it will be able to make a change?
Well, no, I did not submit it to anything. I wouldn't submit it to people whom I don't have faith in, that they're not compromised. There's nothing that I put in the article that I'm sure the DSS doesn't already know 10 times over. All I did in the article actually was merely restate things that were already in the public domain that people were not aware of. I quoted official Nigerian government documentation. There's no way the DSS doesn't already have access to that. There's no way the president doesn't already know these things. They know these things far better than I do, right? The DSS is actually very, very, very competent. They're very good at their job. However, their bosses are politicians. So as it was the case with Issa Pantami, where people were saying, why didn't the DSS vet this person? And then the former DSS director, Teresa Makri, came out and said openly that they did write a very damning memo, a very damning report, security report, dossier on Issa Pantami, and the president chose to ignore it and appoint him as a minister anyway. So if there's that level of political interference in the work of the security agency, why would I submit such work, which they already know, by the way? I'm literally quoting them. Why would I simply give their work back to them? What is that going to achieve?
All right.
What about civil society?
We have to run, unfortunately. Thank you very much, David. I mean, that's all we can take. We're going to keep monitoring the story and see how far it goes. But thank you very much for joining us on the show this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Let's go on a break. When we come back, we'll continue with all these topics. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. So the Ikeja Electric PLC said some communities, including our own, under its franchise network in Lagos State, will experience 8 solid weeks of power outage as to the reconduct 132 kilobytes of lines, the KVs, 132 kV lines. This is from the transmission company of Nigeria. According to reports, the upgrade is coming at a time when the capacity of most of the 132 kV lines have become limited, largely due to time and usage, leading to underutilization. Joining us on the show now is the head of corporate communications, Ikeja Electric, Mr. Felix Ofulue. Good morning, sir. Are you there?
Good morning, I'm here. Thank you very much.
Good to have you on the show. So when we read the story yesterday, because unfortunately, I had praised you on Monday, saying that I get quite a number of hours of electricity. And everybody started calling me, where do you live in Lagos that you're getting that much hours of electricity? The very next day, I narrated in the papers that you're going to shut us down for 8 weeks. Please, we understand it's not for me, but give us, for those who have no idea what I'm talking about, tell us exactly what the plan is And when it's going to start?
Okay, so let me put it in proper context. The 1 to 2 kV lines are those very mighty gigantic towers that you see. Some of them are they run in straight line. Some of them are they run across the mainland bridge. If you get a picture of what I'm saying, those very big lines. So the idea is that CPN has embarked on changing those cables, because these cables, some of them have become obsolete because it's been there for a long time. Now, this activity happens in stages. Now, this stage requires that they replace the ones for Alausa. That's what they call the Alausa, the ones in this TV. So now, the Alausa one in this TV is a source of power to a lot of communities who are located around Alausa. So, in the process of carrying out that activity, they will have to switch off power, because they cannot carry those activities on light power, otherwise they will be electrocuted. So they have to switch off power to enable them carry out those activities. And then the activity will happen between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. So what it means is that between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m., they will have to switch off to enable them work effectively. Now, after 6 p.m., they will switch on the lights again until 8 p.m. when they have to start work the next day. Now, according to the transmission company of Nigeria, these rehabilitation exercises are supposed to last for about 8 weeks. So that's exactly what the process is. And then the idea is that once they finish changing those lines, therefore, you understand that, of course, the advantages of a new line, so the capacity to conduct power or to carry power will be a lot more efficient than what it is right now.
All right.
And then again, too, there are a lot of advantages when you compare it. You will also be able to withstand high voltage. So those are
all right, Mr. Fele, let me get a few more questions in for you. Right.
Yes.
Okay, so yesterday, another journalist corrected me that after watching the show, that this is
I can hear you very well.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So after the show yesterday, someone corrected me that this exercise will be in phases. So it's not about Ikeja Disco alone, and that it will go around other discos. Is this correct? Under the TCN?
Yes, so you know, there's been this clamor for improvement of the power sector. So this is just a response to the call for improvement in the power sector. The idea is part of strengthening the network, and ultimately it's also part of improving power supply to customers. So these are rehabilitation that needs to take place. It's strengthening infrastructure and changing up solid parts of the existing infrastructure. So that's what they're doing exactly. It's also going to move to that part. The challenge we have is that there are a lot of, in that section of the media, it's surprisingly, not only online, even traditional media, they have a penchant for sensationalism. So some of the time, when they paint these stories with screaming headlines, there's a tendency for you to lose sight of the significance. Now, when we called a press conference, the idea was to inform our customers that there's an activity going to happen,
right,
and then the activity is going to require stop outage so that people should get ready and plan for it. But instead of going to town to tell people that this is the activity that is going to happen, a lot of people are screaming blackout, and we never make there's no blackout anywhere. It is going to happen between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. After 6 p.m., the electricity will be restored.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, Mara.
So the very second questions Nigerians are asking is, residents are asking is, okay, it's not a blackout, but what happens to the electrical bill during this period? Hope you are not going to be charging them the bills during.
Okay.
Yeah. So for prepaid customers, they don't have a problem. Even for postpaid customers. Now, what you need to understand is we have what we call trading points. So those trading points across our network, including your distribution transformer, that's where you get your power from. All of them are metered. So we know exactly how much electricity supply you have in those transformers because it is measured. So you will not be billed beyond what you use. So I don't think there's any need for panic at all. Residents will not be billed beyond what they use because we have meters that have captured the allocation of power that's coming to the transformer.
Okay, so I like the fact that this was announced, because what we usually would get is the light just goes off, nobody says anything, and then we are wondering and we are clamoring and asking questions. But the fact that it was announced and you have given us a time frame, what's the guarantee that you will not elapse that time frame? And how do we know that we will achieve the end result, which is to give us proper power supply and enough power supply?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So sorry, so I didn't get a question. Were you making a comment or you asked the question?
So I asked the question, I said, you have told us what you want to do. What's the guarantee that the time frame you have given, you will not increase it? It will be okay. You would have rounded up your work in that time frame. And how do we know now that after this work, we are going to have better power supply?
No, so see, let me just illustrate a little. If
Mr. Fulwe.
And then you change your tires. If you can relate to that, that's exactly what is happening.
Okay.
The conductors are weak, they are old, so they're changing to new ones. Of course, the capacity will get a lot higher. Now, for the timing, of course, I'm sure that, you know, this is a TCM project, transmission project. So I'm sure that they've done the analysis. This is not the first stage. They've done the first stage before. Nobody noticed it. Okay. Right? So this is not the first stage. This is another stage of it. So I think that based on the analysis and I'm giving the time frame, I think that they will be able to complete this time frame.
Now, let me ask for this. There are certain communities that have a special arrangement with the discos. So they get power supply based on the number of hours, and I think they pay a special tariff. Now, would this be reviewed as when this outage starts?
So there's an engagement. You know, for those communities you're talking about, we also have special in-house teams that liaise with them, that also manage them. So I think there are meetings that are going on, and then at the moment I cannot tell you exactly what the agreement will reach, but of course it will be favorable to both parties.
Okay, so I mean, go ahead, one minute, please.
Yes. So I'd also like to know, going forward and in the future, is this something that you know, we should be looking forward to, and maybe there's a time frame we can say every 2 years something like this is going to happen, every 4 years or every 10 years. Is that something that's regular like that, or this is just a one-off?
So what I can assure is that, of course, from time to time, there will be activities in that strengthening network, right? Because it is ultimately the objective of the power of the electricity sector is to improve power supply. So it may not be as long as this, but what I can assure you is that whenever we have this kind of issues, if it's going to occur, we will inform our customers ahead. Now, we owe that's a responsibility we owe our customers. Even though this is not a disco project, but it's our responsibility to inform customers. So I think that, of course, because of the nature of our electricity infrastructure, from time to time, there will be interventions. And now, the extent of interventions, I may not be able to tell you the time frame, but we will let our customers know. All
right, I'm going to go on a break. When we come back, there's a question I have to ask you. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. So we still have the head of corporate communications, Ikeja Electric, Mr. Felix Ofulwe. Mr. Felix, I can't let you go without asking this question on behalf of YK. YK has complained about this commercial bill she gets. I mean, I don't know how it happens, where I think last year she was calling about 300,000, and yesterday said she got a bill of 900,000. She's like, hey, how is she going to pay 900,000 bill? How does it work for commercial entities? How do they get billed, and how do you collate or itemize their own bills?
Now, you know that, of course, the customers are segmented, and then you now have 3 categories of bills. You have the residential, that's the non-MD, and then you have MD1, and then you have MD2. That is the categorization for you. So these non-MD customers, what you mean by MD customers is maximum demand customers. Those are the commercial customers. The non-MD customers are categorized as residential customers, while the MD1 are the smaller industries and the smaller companies, commercial companies, while the MD2 are the big ones, the mighty ones. Now, realize too, with the new regimen with new tariff regimen, you actually billed according to the number of hours you get. So what now happens is for each of those categories, the tariff will differ based on your classification. But you actually, so a residential customer in a place where they get 20 hours and above will pay higher than a residential customer who lives in a place where they get, even the same way, even a commercial customer will also pay more than somebody who lives in a place where you get 12 hours. Now, in this case, you may actually be an error And the error can be based on a lot of factors. If, for instance, the apartment where you live was used as a commercial for a commercial enterprise before, and then you come in and you didn't check, it's possible that I don't think the system is that intelligent enough for now to recognize that, oh, this person that has moved in here
it's for shrine.
is no longer. So the best way to address it is to you will need to send a mail for customer service.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess we'll call you privately for that later. Let me take a few more other questions.
So I wanted to ask, like Nigerians, they're asking if the price of power would increase after this upgrade.
That's a good question.
They want to know.
Would you increase our power after this?
So you know, I may not have the capacity to address the issue of tariff increase, but you see, it is based on a lot of factors, right? And then again, DISCOs don't arbitrarily increase the tariff. It must be approved. There must be an approval from the regulator to say, okay, you can go ahead. So there are indices that determine whether tariff will be increased. But I think the ultimate thing is for us to enjoy improved services. That is what all of us are.
All right.
So, Mr. Felix, how long does it take to resolve an issue of tariff or a mix-up in meters within Ikeja Disco? I have had some complaints, and they are still unresolved for this long. How long exactly? And what do you do with your offices? What you call them, the billing offices within regions that you have? How do you do?
You're taking offices.
Sir?
Billing issues will take at least 1 billion cycle. Don't forget that for every bill you receive, the bill is an arrears. So if you receive a bill in October, you are paying for the bill is for what you used the last month. Okay. So if there's going to be an adjustment, there must be a complete full billing cycle before the adjustment can be made, before the adjustment will reflect. And it is not an issue. I think the problem where most of the challenges that people have is how they direct their complaints. They direct their complaints wrongly. So if you direct your complaints to the customer service, it will be documented, and you will get a service request number. Now, that service request number will enable you to track your challenge, your complaint. And if you go into any of our business, any of our customer service touch points, once you show them the service request, it will tell them the complaint, and it will tell them the status of resolution of that complaint. So sometimes people don't take that approach, and for all you know, that matter is not even treated. So people will keep hoping that, oh, I'm waiting for a resolution. Meanwhile, the issue has not been directed to the appropriate channel.
All right, let me get Mariam.
Okay, so for private residences, this blackout may not be too much of a hassle, but for your commercial clients, what sort of compensation would you give? Understanding that there will be an economic impact on their businesses because of this.
So it's not, like I said before, it's not a blackout. It is an outage that is going to last for particular hours. Now, the final details of, I told you before that this project is not a disco to real project.
Yeah.
Now, the final details of engagement between the, because I may not be able to tell you right now because I really don't know if it has been defined, right? But if it is something that has to be defined, then it is the business of the electricity, and then the customer. Well, so.
All right, I have to let you go. Well, I want to ask this question for my 9-year-old daughter because she always asks me when the light switches off. Is it like somebody goes to one board and says, okay, this street off, this street on, and that community on, you off, and is it like a jigsaw puzzle, or what exactly? How does it really happen that one street has electricity and you don't have electricity? A child wants to know, how does that happen?
It is controlled. What we do is equitable distribution. So you don't get enough to go around the whole of your network. So you have to distribute equitably. So it is controlled. There's a department that says, okay, this is how we manage electricity. And then you also know that you need to balance your electricity flow as well. It should not be heavy on some parts so that it doesn't damage infrastructure. So it is actually strategically controlled. You understand? But somebody goes to say, okay, so these people will have electricity for those 2 and 4 hours, right? If there are no challenges, if there are no faults, of course, the people will have it. And when it is time for electricity to leave, somebody will be there to also address that issue, and he'll move somewhere else.
I bet that person will be putting
that's
permanently
yeah,
on
that's where. Don't you think bias comes in?
Yes, now there'll be bias now.
Bias
If I was there, I'll leave it on my street permanently.
It's not expecting. It is planned.
Planned. Okay.
So
All right.
it doesn't depend on an individual. I'm talking from my network perspective.
You need to find
We'll find the people that are there. Don't worry, Mr. Felix, don't worry. We'll find the people that are, now that we're not in the control room, don't worry, we'll find them. It's not Nigeria. We'll find our neighbors that live there. Thank you very much, Mr. Felix. It was a pleasure having you on the show. Let's go on a break. Oh, we can't go on a break, actually. We have to move on to the other topic. So we read in the papers, Father in heaven. They said in our National Assembly that our senators confirmed the board nominee from EFCC who started school before he was born. So he started school in 1969, I believe. But he started, no, he was born in 1969. But he started school in 1968. Yeah. And this matter is trending on social media. What exactly do you make of it, the lilies of your view? Let me even ask you first, before I start even rationalizing what I'm thinking. Nima, would you like to start?
That he started school in 1969 or 1960. Let's just assume that somebody put the numbers before themselves. Did he start school at 1 year old while still breastfeeding? That's the question for me. Because in 1969, 1968, a child had to be grown enough for their hand to touch the other ear. For them to qualify for school. There was strict compliance with maturity for primary school.
Primary 1, 6 years.
So I take up on in the other side. And how? For me, what's painful the most is that no consequence, country of no consequence, of the administration of no consequence, now allow the person.
No, is that how did even get to the part of confirmation? That's
no, they confirm me. No, so no consequence again. You appear before our own representatives. Imagine me, person that is representing me, sitting there, and they allow him. If I was this for myself, will it happen?
Maybe they didn't see it.
Wow. They debated it.
I think it was, well, it has been brought up again, and then when you look at the entity we're talking about, we're talking of EFCC. So these are a set of people that are supposed to be above board, and then to find this mistake, discrepancy, maybe as they said, they missed it. So what you need to do immediately is to explain how you may have started school early, or primary school, because you may say it was kindergarten, I guess. Maybe he was in kindergarten at age 1. But it seems that he started his primary education, a year before he was born. That is a huge discrepancy that should have been flagged immediately that they saw it. But if they have missed it, then he should quickly, do the needful, which is either explain to us exactly what the timeline is. Was there a mistake on his birth certificate, or was there a mistake on his school leaving certificate? Those are the things that we need to hear from
You only wonder how many other people have, how many other nominations have been confirmed and stuff like this wasn't flagged.
Yeah. So for me, I think he's just a spiritual somebody. He's a superior spiritual somebody. Yes, now. Yes. Because I really do not understand how we have a panel of people who are supposed to investigate nominations and appointments, look through your certificates, look through your birth certificate, look through everything, and none of them spotted this. None of them. No, so maybe they got, yes, now, but he was already, has he not been nominated already? So they were supposed to have done that before putting his name for nominations. It's something that you nip at the board. Nobody would even hear. We were expecting to see this person. He did not meet requirements. That's what we would have heard. Yes, that's spiritual angle. So it could have been that his superior being came and started school before his physical being came. And but for me, I just feel they are using us to play 10-10 in this country.
It's not like that.
It's also very disgraceful.
Now 10-10 will they play for this country?
EFCC.
Yes.
And I think that itself makes it so weighty. Because EFCC, everybody in EFCC should have been able to go through this really strenuous scrutiny, to ensure that we're getting the best of the best.
To fight the corruption.
Well, in those days, if you want to go for certain offices, they say, are you fit and proper? Do you have the character? They will now go and look for your pedigree, ex-convict, anything in your... In fact, to become SCN, people have started to, say there's nothing, who pays higher. Because those days, if they do a publication and your name is on the list for SCN, they're waiting for people to write if they have anything at all.
Against
Some of those people that have property deals that have gone bad, if somebody so much as writes that, you know, you have to wait on the list till you clear that character issue. That goes to it goes to the very root of it. But now the senator representing Jigawa Northeast raised this issue that the nominee is born before he went to primary school before he was born, you know, and he then said, just so that you don't think, I mean, we need to clear this discrepancy if it is about you know, mistaking or typographical error. And every senator sitting down there, maybe they were tired, just moved on as usual. Wow. And they just confirm A, nay, and they just moved on.
But then there's also
sorry, Miriam, somebody raised this, and nobody else jumped on it. Because the person that raised it said, I just want it to be clear, if there was a mistake in his papers, they should go and do it. Somebody did not say, wait.
Let us handle this.
Don't confirm. Next sitting.
Yeah, let me finish this call from Abraham if I come to Mariam. Abraham, are you there?
Yeah, good morning.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, first-time caller.
First-time caller. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. You see, this age thing is, I think it's a Nigerian thing, and it's been here for a very, very long time. And if you are a very big follower of sports, you know it's like a normal thing for you to reduce your age. Yes. Even at times,
I can hardly hear you.
Sports. Can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, like I've been approached several times when I try to apply for things to reduce my age. And you know, what I always tell people is that I would rather work very hard and so that I will not need to reduce my age. So I think it's a Nigerian thing and common everywhere.
Thank you for taking us there, Mr. Abraham. What is the Nigerian thing?
Yes.
What exactly?
So,
everything bad.
So that's what I was going to say. I said maybe the reason why everyone didn't jump on it is because nobody wants you to look further than face value at their own documents. And go and uncover what you know that they are. You know, they say remove the log in your eye before you remove the speck. So maybe that is what is happening there. And it's true, it is quite a Nigerian story. But many times, you know, we've talked about how sometimes because of years spent in university, and then when you get into the labor market, they want to make sure that you're a particular age. And they do not put into consideration the time for strike and things like that. And so many people, when they find that they're unable to get jobs, you know, quickly address that age thing. We have heard of so many footballers. We have footballers that are twins. The twin will be celebrating 40 years in Nigeria. The one playing football will be celebrating 20 years. So, you know, those things are there. But it's important that, especially when we're dealing with...
start changing this
yes,
stuff?
especially when we're dealing with, you know, ministries and institutions like this. We cannot say EFCC. We shouldn't be able to call on any or point at anyone that works with the EFCC or the presidency and say, these are your, you know, your flaws that somehow everyone turned a blind eye towards. It just totally... For that ministry, it just totally, you know, blacklists them.
So this case...
Let me take this call. Frank, are you there?
Good morning.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, and the other thing is good morning, everyone. My name is Frank. In respect of the EFCC, I would not like to... EFCC, there are a lot of compromised people in that sector. I sent one of my stories to you on your Facebook. I don't know if you remember me. I have an issue with the former Speaker of the State of Assembly, in which every evidence I provided, I gave them every evidence they need. The former speaker was a very highly corrupt individual. I gave them whatever they need. Till today, they've not responded.
Frank? Oh, we lost that call. So I want us to stay on this Nigerian thing.
Yes, so this is not the Nigerian thing, though it's also common. The Nigerian thing is usually that there's an age limit to employment, there's an early age to retirement, and you've not spent the requisite years in service. So you go and do an affidavit to reduce your age, even though it's on oath. You do that. You claim to have been born later than you were born. So maybe you were born in 1985. You go and claim that, no, I was born in 1991, no, so that you qualify to spend more years in service. You earn more retirement. That's normal. That's more popular. But the place where people adopt late family members' birth certificates, primary school, yes, this one fits more into where you have a very brilliant family member whose certificates are just available. You are the ones who do not go to school, but you have connection.
Nima, you're right.
You now adopt it. You now adopt names, everything. I have 2 YX certificates, and my parents almost killed me once when an aunt called me and said her daughter was trying to get into the army. And they heard, Nima, when you wrote a YX, everybody heard that you had your one sitting in your passed it very well. So which one do you want to give your cousin?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
stupid me just said, okay, I'm not using this one. I'm using this one.
Yeah.
I'll give you. So I went to my cell searching for it. My parents, I didn't say anything to them. And they just thought, Auntie, no problem. So we have this trust per child where you have all your school history. And I kept looking. And I then found the statement of results. And I was like, okay, statement of results is okay. And they heard me on the phone. My father just called my mother. This one don't they say result. You know? So they now called me and I told my father said, no. Your names are Nimatala or Holo Akashat. Somebody else will have those names. Can you answer for the character? You that I'm putting all my efforts to give you a good character. Can you vouch for the character of the person who's going to have your names and initials as well?
So we have this thing in our community where it's almost normal. I mean, I know I had a call. I think I've lost that call. You know, where we change names. I mean, I found it really, really...
Change names, change
names and change ages for specific reasons.
Until Nima mentioned it, I was like, it's not impossible. But I remember that I know someone who worked with me for a while. And she was just talking quite casually of how they got results from a certain family member. And how one refused, and how that one that refused to give his result is a wicked person.
Wow.
Did not want the other one to progress. Wow. So, and unfortunately, it was to get into the police force. And so when I looked at, I was in shock. I was like, I don't understand. Why is this a thing? And then why is it so normal for you to be having a conversation with me? And I remember talking to someone and said, it's normal, though. People are doing it all the time. So that has now become a new normal, but we have to do something about it. Yes. You should be able to, but I always feel that there's a certain generation now that can't go back on their birth certificates and things like that. You should be able to trace it. There was a generation that they didn't have that, and so they swore affidavits. Yes, so
I'm sure the senators would definitely. I'm not sure why we're hearing the hang-up here.
If they would do something about it.
Well, I
they have moved
the
on.
senators, I mean, I would like to hear from the senators, because I really doubt if they will follow through with this kind of confirmation. Maybe they'll call him back and review it. They should
recall this nominee. Why? Is because we had somebody who clearly won an election in Bayelsa for name and spelling The party lost an election, won outside. In court, for names, spelling, and data and everything on the certificate. A certificate is extremely important. So if it is extremely important enough to deny a person what he won at an election, it is not for a person not to sit on any board if they don't have it clear. Yes.
So for me, I think people who are coming out to serve publicly need to be very careful because everything will be checked. So if you had done all of this in this generation where a lot of people have changed names, changed ages, and all of that, and you know that sometime in the future you're going to go out, you need to rethink it. You need to ask yourself, do I want this, or do I go back and make the corrections that I need to make because I'm going to be representing people? It tells a lot. Our children will not have this sort of problem.
Let me tell you why. We are constantly updating the world about, my child is just 10 years old.
No, I don't even think they are in that mind space to do it. Yes, but I think it's...
okay, go ahead. A quick break because we have to wrap up with this. But when we come back, we continue with other topics. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. Still talking around age. So the NCC had released a statement that disqualifies Nigerians below the age of 18 from getting their SIM. And this comes at a time where lots of people have been getting SIMs for their youngsters. But they're saying that you have to be an adult to be able to get a SIM. What are your thoughts on this? I know we're discussing age earlier, and I know we're still talking about how you said something about people also when they die and they just slide their names in there. So these are issues that we can actually discuss. So what are your thoughts on what NCC is saying these days?
I think NCC should merge their policies for clarity. So the NIN is not an age-bound registration. So why should the SIM registration be age-bound? the person who owns a SIM is a human being. And
yeah, but the SIM is supposed to be for a phone, correct?
Yes.
So would a child use a phone?
Yes,
Of
our
course.
children use phones.
Yeah. Okay, so for me, I agree with waiting till of a certain age to get a SIM. And because they're not saying that a child cannot use a phone or cannot use a SIM, but the SIM will be registered to an adult. So I agree with that. But just the age, for me, I don't think it works because some people are already in university by age 18. So you cannot have a university student who's unable to have their own personal SIM. But I personally do not want my children to have a SIM attached to their name at this age. I think, like, with everything, a SIM card comes with, so many... It opens opportunities to a lot of things that you cannot, what's the word now, monitor. I want to be able to monitor my child's online activities, phone activities. And so I would rather have something that he can use that's connected to mine. And we understand that phones are used also for lots of, nefarious activities. We've heard how SIMs are cloned and how people will take your SIM and pretend you're someone, they pretend that you're you. So those sort of things, I think that children should be protected from that. But I feel that by 16, or instead of putting an age to it, by 16 years, you should be able to purchase your own SIM for yourself and then be able to do, because then you're an adult and whatever thing you may have done, you can be prosecuted as an adult, for that
16 or 18.
Yes.
At 16 or 18. So according to the Nigerian laws, you become an adult from 18. That's where you can be, we don't release them till like 28. That's where you can be held responsible for every action that you take. So I think I agree with the NCC because a lot of things are happening right now that we need to be able to protect our children. Things are done with SIM cards that I wouldn't think it's nice for children to have SIMs, just like Miriam said, registered under their name. So at that age, they are still supposed to be under the protection of their parents. So if they want to have their phone, it's my registration. And if anything happens, they can trace it from there. I was trying to set up a Zoom account recently for my child's school, and I put his real age into, like, it was his laptop, so I didn't want to use my own Zoom account. And I put his age and everything. And they said, told me, sorry, you can't, he's underage, you can't open his Zoom account. So we should have such, measures to ensure that people who have access to certain things are of, mature, they have that maturity to be able to handle it for everything that happens. So if you want to get a phone for your children, you can register your own SIM, give them their phone for their communication. But for them to, at their age, have different names and different SIM cards, I don't think it's...
No, that's why we are where we are. Just from the earlier topic to what we discussed now. So a child grows up using the SIM registered in the parent's name. Do they convert the SIM to theirs when they turn 18?
We change it.
No, that's clarity from NCC.
Yeah.
Do they allow that? And what procedure and process does the child have to now go through to do that? Whereas, if our data is clear as to birth and registration, and as soon as a person is holding a phone to them, the parent who bought the phone registers it in the child's name, any tracing for the purpose of criminality that NCC is now linking him to NIN and all of those things is clear. So a child children did NIN registration, although I've not done for my children, I think that they should get to a certain age because there was a rush. Not that I would not have done. I had the opportunity, I would have taken them. So if they have an NIN that is linked to their SIM, linked to their name, is it not better for NCC if there's a trace?
So
I think it's for them.
That trace is so important because you're talking during the break about the fact that in some states, when somebody dies, they don't release the death certificate because they bring a family member to go into the system. That's why they'll come up with all these ghost workers, people who have died long time, and their family members actually doing their jobs
salaries
because they don't have a way to track and trace that this person has passed on. So we obviously need a proper tracing mechanism to ensure for a child from birth to death, we should know where you are per time. Some people are changing dates on us and confirming themselves in various...
yeah, but also, you know, when your children are using is your phone that you borrowed them. So when they finish... No, hold on now. We do business. I mean, I have plenty of phone numbers.
It's with your bank account.
Yeah,
open an account.
It's linked to me.
Yeah, it's linked to us.
It's linked to me. So if they use it...
bank account,
and anything
linked to you carries your child's name, does it not?
Yes.
Which bank account?
Which
bank account? I didn't get that.
If you open a bank account for your child, it will be linked to your name, definitely.
Yes.
So my child cannot go into the bank and open an account just for himself and withdraw money.
But there's clarity as to who owns what account. And in the bank, there are documents to show that as soon as the child reaches age, you attach your child's birth certificate to it. The neatness of the transition alone convinces you that, you know, NCC is sort of confused about this. Okay. Because what happens to transitioning the number to the child upon adulthood?
They may have that plan.
No, they say we should not.
We have to wrap up.
But it does not stop the adult deciding, you know what, I've just turned 16, I'm going to go and get myself my first SIM card for celebrating my SIM card collection party or something like that. It's not a big deal. Wait till you're...
So this conversation on age is something I'm going to continue talking about, especially now. I know that the Senate probably would give us a response based on what, I mean, obviously everybody's talking about is trending. So we expect that the senators would respond to this trend. I'm sure they will let us know what happened and how come this man scaled the nomination and became confirmed. But either way, we'll keep the conversation on age, because the truth is that many people are doing it and it's illegal. I want to stop it from becoming the Nigerian thing, the Nigerian factor. Even when the Ofuluwe was talking,
from being the Nigerian thing.
we acted out the Nigerian factor, because when Ofuluwe was speaking earlier, and we told us that there are people that actually switch and switch off. When I said, well, we'll find them because that's Nigerian. Because when we find them, we know what to do, because the Nigerian thing, but it's not right.
Yeah, true.
So we need to change. We need to change. Okay, let's wrap up with our comments and then we run off.
Yes. So, Daisy says, it's very common, but they do catch them and inform the person once they notice them. Dale says...
That's civil service, right?
Yes. Dale says they should fix the central system of registration for all Nigerians, whereby all houses are tied to each person and where they live. Without putting security in place in Nigeria, nothing will work.
Okay, that's all we can take on the show. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.